Hello and welcome to Noel's Retro Lab. Today we're going to be finishing up with this Amstrad CPC 6128. In the last couple of episodes we actually did some investigating on the board and figured out that it was not working and eventually tracked it down to the CRTC. We replaced it and now it's fully functional. So today we're going to be putting our soldering irons and screwdrivers away and taking out the brushes and soap to make this case hopefully look as good as new. As you can see, the keyboard needs a lot of work. This is lifted over here. We need to glue it down, and it just generally needs a lot of TLC. So let's get started.
Let's have a look at the case right now. That way we have a baseline for how things will end up later, and also that way we know what we need to do. So the case itself looks okay. The keys are really dirty. I mean, look at that. They're filthy. And they have some discolored spots, so we may have to do some retrobrighting. I hope not, but it may be something that we have to do. And then apart from that, we have this part that is lifted here, so we're going to have to glue it down. Some scratches there. There's just nothing much we can do about that. So it won't end up as new, but hopefully we can do a good job with it.
And then inside, it seems it's fine, it's just really dirty, so we're going to have to give it a good bath.
We start by removing the keyboard and everything else from the case so we can clean it thoroughly. The keyboard is held together with 3 big screws. There we go, comes right out, and we'll be dealing with the keyboard in just a second. Now we need to remove the LED and the loudspeaker, just one screw holding it down. And then just some cables held along the case that we need to remove.
Now it's time to deal with the metal plate. We want to glue it down with something strong enough so it won't lift up again with time. So in this case, we're going to be using one of those strong glues, like a cement, that is made out of 2 different substances. You need to apply them in equal parts and mix them together. And that will create a very strong binding glue. Here I'm using any old piece of cardboard that I have around. That's fine, anything works. And then we very carefully apply it in between the metal plate and the case itself. Try not to get any extra. Whoops. Now we hold it together with a clamp. Nice that it has plastic protection. And we wait 5 to 10 hours while we work on the rest of the computer. And now for one of my favorite parts, the keyboard. I use a tool to remove the keys, pull straight up, and I get the keys out and separate the large spring that is underneath each of the keys. We want to make sure we don't lose any of those. And I go through all the keys, but we need to stop right now. These keys over here, all of these, have little metal bars in the back, so we can't just yank them. We have to open up the keyboard and get those metal pieces out. To open up the back of the keyboard, we just need to pull on those plastic tabs. It's pretty straightforward. And the metal piece comes right out. Underneath is the keyboard membrane. Carefully lifted. We'll clean it up later. And there are those metal bars. With a small screwdriver, we can just easily pry them apart. We need to keep them for later, obviously. And there's just 5 of them. One more. There we go. Okay, they're removed. Now we can remove those keys, and we don't even need the tool for those. They're easy enough to do by hand. Just always pulling straight up, not sideways. Careful with space, it's a little different. This one has 2 springs, not 1, and the springs are actually smaller. Look at that. So we need to take those springs and keep them aside for later and use them on the space. To clean the keys, my favorite method is some generic glass cleaner and a rag. Apply some glass cleaner on the rag itself. wrap it around my finger, and grab a key and start scrubbing hard on each of the sides and then along the top. I find that the glass cleaner does an amazing job of getting rid of all the dirt. And there it goes in the water bucket. Repeat 60 times. Finally, last one. That was exhausting. The keyboard membrane is pretty straightforward. It's just a little dirty, so we spray it again with glass cleaner and use our rag to get rid of that dust. And then we spray it again, give it a second pass, and clean it a little bit more thoroughly, just to make sure that the keys can make contact in each of the circles. It mostly gets dirty in the front, which is where it's facing up on the keyboard. We'll give it a very light clean on the back just to make sure there's no dust. And yeah, that's good enough.
Okay, so here we have the keys that are back and they're nice and clean. However, as I feared, they have this very strong yellowing. And the worst part is that they're kind of uneven. The computer was probably set in a way that the sun was shining in a certain direction, so this was blocked by some other keys, and then it got yellow on top and then from the front. So like the space key, for example, it's like really yellow right here in the front. In the past, I've done some kind of retrobrighting on Amstrad CPC 6128 keys, and I was not very happy with the result. Yeah, they lightened up, but they were kind of uneven. And especially some of the large keys like the space key ended up being worse than it was before. So I think for now, I'm just going to reassemble it and hope that once it's back in place, the yellow looks more uniform than this because you don't really see it with the key in front of it. And maybe what we'll do is save the retrobrighting experiments for another episode.
Time to reassemble it. Let's start with the space key because it's the one with the two springs that are different. There we go. We can put it in for now. We don't have to worry about the little metal bars. We'll do those afterwards. And then key by key, first the spring and then the key. One after the other. There we go. Last key. Yeah, it feels so good. Yeah, so it actually looks pretty good. Once they're all together like that, the yellowing is not nearly as noticeable. Now we need to install the metal bars back. We start with the space, the largest and easiest one. You can even just do it by hand. So just put it in the little notches and over the plastic tabs and push it in. The others are a little smaller, so I like to use a small flathead screwdriver and put them in place just like that. We do the other three. And the last thing to finish assembling the keyboard is just to snap everything back together. Carefully place the keyboard section on top of the membrane, aligning the tabs with the holes, and just do the reverse process and push all the tabs in until they're all in. The metal piece has been sitting overnight, so the glue should be set by now. Let's carefully remove the clamp and let's see how it is. That looks pretty good. So now, time for a bath. We just get it wet, and there's no secret here. We just apply brush with soap. Lots of it. And then we rinse it up. It's that simple. And now we repeat the same process with the bottom piece. Lots of water. And lots of suds. Oh yeah, and some more water. wait, there is more. Let's apply some window cleaner, because the water in the soap got rid of the dust, but there is grease and other things stuck in that case. So we're going to do the same thing as we did with the keys, window cleaner plus rag plus lots of scrubbing. Now it looks like it's really clean, finally. But it's a little dull. The thing is taking away some of the shine from the case, so we can fix that. That's our secret ingredient, car dashboard protectant. We apply some of it all over the case, and we spread it out with a paper towel. This is pretty hard to do one-handed. We just want to apply it uniformly all over the case, and then we're just going to let it sit there for a few minutes. It's already looking better, don't you think? And now we do the same thing with the back of the case. After the product had a chance to sit there and sort of soak into the case, we remove the leftover bits that are still on the case. First, I use a paper towel just to soak up the sort of the big gobs. And afterwards, I grab a rag, our famous red rag, and just polish it really well. And you guessed it, we do the same thing in the back. Look at that, nice and shiny. Now we just need to put everything back together. Either that, or I'm playing the disassembling video backwards. And we do the same thing with the speaker, the LED, and of course the keyboard itself. Now we assemble everything together, and we get ready for the moment of truth. And look at that. Shiny and new. Sure looks a lot better than it did at the beginning, doesn't it?
And now we just need to test it. Perfect. Seems to work okay. And let's try one of my favorite games ever. Seems to be loading perfectly. There we go. I think that was quite a success. And there you have it. We have a maybe not quite brand new, but an Amstrad in really good condition. We fixed it up. We started with the 3-inch floppy disk drive. We removed that horrible belt. We put the right pin. Then we fixed that faulty CRTC that was giving no video out. And finally, we gave it a good face cleaning, and it's all shiny and new, and the metal plate is glued back together. The only thing that is preventing it from being in top condition is the keys have some of that yellow in, but I think it's very acceptable. I think it was a very successful restoration. I hope you enjoyed the video and it was useful. If you liked it, please give it that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Until the next video, see you then.